Bonjour, my StyleEsteem queens. We are in Paris. Well, while the world is celebrating the Olympics in Paris, I am here on a solo trip celebrating the last 5 years of making my mark on the fashion industry with my company StyleEsteem, reflecting on the last 5 years and on the next 5 to come, while having just a big celebration of fashion in one of the fashion capitals of the world. And so, of course, I had to start off this fashion trip at the Dior Museum. And let me tell you, standing outside of the Dior Museum in my StyleEsteem couture turban with these beautiful big bows, I just felt like I had walked right out of the displays of the museum itself. Before I went inside, I had the best time people watching on the street and seeing how all of the beautiful people from all over the world interpreted elegance in their own personal style and headwear. My excitement only grew as I feasted my eyes on this colorful archival Dior wall. And really, I wasn't kidding when I said I felt like I was one of the works of art in the museum itself. And as soon as I was able to catch my breath from all of this beauty, I took my large bows and I flew up these stairs straight to the Dior Cafe, where I started off my day of fashion museum hunting in Paris with a beautiful little breakfast spread while taking in some of the fashion illustrations hanging all around the cafe. After my breakfast, this was the first room that I came upon, and with its beautiful, feminine, timeless silhouettes and florals, I really had a moment where I started to reflect on what femininity meant to me as someone who had survived a breast cancer diagnosis at the young age of 29. And much like the visual effect of Dior's house codes, which is really a brand's aesthetic and visual values, life and fashion design have taught me that femininity, by nature, embodies juxtaposing ideas. It is beautiful, delicate, and elegant, while also being brave, courageous, and gritty. And from veils to top hats and everything in between, headwear has truly punctuated this idea throughout fashion history, whether we're talking about women's fashion or men's fashion. Whether it's headwear for cancer patients and cancer thrivers, or for the fashion runways and the turbanistas, regardless of culture, religion, and time period. Then, like it was divine timing, I came across this incredible crown wall. The aura of these pieces was so moving to me, and that's because I truly believe that each of us has royalty inside of them, and that wearing a crown is simply an embodiment of that fact. What is fashion if not an embodiment of all the realms inside of us, the ones past and the ones yet to come? I like to think of versions of myself as trends in fashion, each with its own unique story, one coming after the other, building on each other, until eventually there's a crossover and they come together to create something even more beautiful and unique. The same can be said about all of the iterations of StyleEsteem over the last 5 years. And while we've had the honor of gracing the pages of Vogue recently, I want you to have that same positive feeling in your story when you look back at your life through style, especially in those moments when you decided to crown yourself in StyleEsteem, no matter where your hair journey took you and where it's going. And while it's summer in Paris and everyone is swept up in Olympics madness, I know that fall is right around the corner and that New York Fashion Week will be here before we know it. These moments of peering inside Mr. Dior's workshop and thinking about how Dior was my first ever designer purchase when I had the money to make a designer purchase, I really was considering how I too would create the next phase of our legacy with our collections coming up in the fall. Yes, multiple collections to close out the year. And that just left me on such an inspiring note as I decided to, of course, have a little bit of a wardrobe change to take some more pictures in front of this beautiful wall. Realizing that I should have brought a headpiece in every single color, but we will always have Paris and we can do that next time. I then window shopped through the streets of Paris on my way to a spontaneous lunch where I discovered a cafe with the freshest couscous and salmon that I've ever had. I kicked my feet up and enjoyed every last bite of my food as I created some fashion illustrations while gazing out over the streets of Paris. Then I bounced to different pastry shops as I collected desserts and searched for iced coffee. The only place that had it was Pret a Manger, but they had this gorgeous view of the Eiffel Tower and I got to eat my collection of pastries, and I was a happy girl because your girl's a New Yorker and she needs her iced coffee in this Paris summer heat. Then my fashion tour continued with the Palais Galliera, the Yves Saint Laurent Museum, the Museum of Decorative Arts, just to name a few. I was struck by how so many of the couture pieces that I had the privilege of seeing on display reimagined the crown by even treating the hair itself as a work of art. In the same way, a big goal for us at StyleEsteem is to encourage healthcare professionals to talk to cancer patients about how fashion can be joyous and liberating, especially during a time like chemotherapy and hair loss. Then I zipped back to my place near the Garnier Opera House for a quick outfit change before taking myself out on a solo dinner date. And while making new friends and feasting on these incredible muscles, I have to say I was still the most captivated by the sparkle of my own StyleEsteem couture turban from all the way across the restaurant. Once I ensured that there was no muscle left behind, I stepped out for a post-dinner walk by the Eiffel Tower. I chose this StyleEsteem couture headpiece for the occasion because it felt so effortless and glamorous, which are qualities that I really do associate with French fashion and French makeup. It was late in the night, so while I was a bit sad that the Eiffel Tower lights were no longer lit, my turban certainly brought enough sparkle to light up the whole Eiffel Tower itself. And I even caught some spontaneous fireworks in the distance, as you can see there, because I think Paris wanted to match my sparkle in the end after all. It was the perfect way to end the day. I also visited Paris's world-famous Galeries Lafayette to take in the stunning architecture, but also all that was trending in fashion and in headwear. Because when we create new collections at StyleEsteem, we always have our finger on the pulse of what's trending globally in the fashion magazines, on the runways, and in the stores. As you can see, the Galeries Lafayette was a clear reflection of our most recent Italian-inspired headwear collection. I made my way through the stores and to the rooftop to enjoy one of my favorite views of Paris. Wearing my Chanel-inspired outfit, accented with tweed earrings and this glittering champagne-colored StyleEsteem turban, I posed with my number 5 balloon that has followed me all around the world, last year for my 5-year cancer survivorship celebration and this year for StyleEsteem's 5-year anniversary. I then took a moment to soak in the energy of the city and to sketch out all of the headwear design ideas that the day at Galeries Lafayette had inspired in me. With hours left for my flight back to New York City, I still had to find my wearable souvenir, something that I could wear for the years to come to remind me of all the wonderful memories I had in Paris. So I hopped in a taxi and headed straight for the Paris flea market, one of the biggest in the world. And with over 2,500 vendors there, I'm so happy I found this wonderful vintage brooch shop to add to my brooch collection from around the world. I love personalizing my headpieces with brooches and how each of them tells a special story. I did FaceTime my husband, who was asleep on the East Coast, to show him the selection because it's our little tradition to shop for brooches together and to share them with each other. I wear them on my headpieces and he wears them on his lapel, like little time capsules of all of our memories. With my favorite choices tucked away in my StyleEsteem tote, flying back over the Atlantic to New York City, I knew that I would one day soon return to Paris, not just to collect more happy memories, but also, of course, to collect more brooches. Till then, au revoir, my StyleEsteem queens.